Some new stories from Somaliland, Sudan, and Russia-Ukraine conflict. Firstly, Somaliland's President Musa Abdi is on his way to the US. A much talked about visit is going to start. Somaliland is going to make some offers to the US government in return for recognition. Secondly, clashes are being reported in Darfur region of Sudan. Around 19 civilians have been killed. And thirdly, some updates on Russia Ukraine fighting. Russia says Western US arms shipments to Ukraine would be legitimate military targets. Some pictures of foreign fighters who are on both sides fighting now. Zelensky is still in Kiev. He shared a video from Kiev. And lastly, some protests in Melitopol city of Ukraine. Firstly, Somaliland is a self-declared country in the Horn of Africa. Its president Musi Abdi today departed Hargeisa, capital for the US. He will arrive in US in coming hours, and it's a very important visit because we know that reportedly Somaliland is making an offer to the US government. Somaliland is offering that the US can use a seaport and an airfield in Somaliland in return for recognition of Somaliland as a country. Somaliland wants recognition. It has not been recognized by any country so far. Will the US agree to this offer or not? That remains to be seen. But we saw last year that a delegation of US members of House of Representatives visited Somaliland. Then US sent an invitation. So this visit is at the invitation, at the request of the US government. And Musi Abdi is accompanied by a large delegation, Minister of Interior, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Trade, Minister of Environment, and several businessmen are with Musi Abdi. Will the US recognize Somaliland? That remains to be seen because US has close ties with Somalia as well. And Somalia says Somaliland is part of Somalia, not an independent country. But the US would like to have some presence in Somaliland because Somaliland a few days ago issued a very strong statement against China. Somaliland's delegation visited Taiwan a few weeks ago, and there Somaliland's foreign minister spoke about China, and he had said that Somaliland's foreign policy would be independent. It would not succumb to pressure from any country. So US would like to have good ties with Somaliland to push China out of this region. Let's see what happens in this visit. We'll update you after the visit. Somaliland is strategically very important, viewers. It's right on the route which is hub of international shipping traffic. US would definitely like to have its presence in Somaliland. Secondly, viewers, Sudan. Once again, clashes being reported in Darfur region of Sudan, where unrest has been going on for more than around 2 decades now. Clashes erupted in western Darfur, close to Chadian border, among some rival factions. 19 persons have been killed so far. 5 have been injured. Janjaweed militias are said to be part of the fighting this time. We know that in Darfur, clashes are between majority Arab militias and minority non-Arab fighters. And these clashes have been going on for years. Omar al-Bashir, former ruler of Sudan, tried to bring peace to this region by launching some militias there. Arab militias, but the peace could not be secured here. Situation is still the same. Clashes erupt after a few weeks or months, and killings are reported. Last year, UN decided to end its peacekeeping mission in Darfur region. People protested. They said that the situation was far from being peaceful. The coup attempted by Abdul Fattah al-Burhan has led to chaos in Sudan. Politically, there is a stalemate. In Darfur, it's becoming destabilized. Eastern Sudan is already destabilized. And so far, there is no sign of any improvement in the situation. UN mission, some Middle Eastern countries, US, they're trying to bring the opposing factions to the table, but so far no signs of any solution to the existing crisis in Sudan. Lastly, viewers, Russia-Ukraine conflict. Firstly, Russia has warned that arms shipments from the West, from the US, would be legitimate military targets. Deputy Foreign Minister of Russia, Sergei Ryabkov, today made it clear that Russia would attack Western arms shipments which are going to be delivered to Ukraine in the form of anti-aircraft systems, anti-tank missiles. These shipments would be attacked. It means that airstrikes will be conducted on the shipments if they try to enter Ukraine by road. It could happen in coming days. Secondly, foreign fighters are now being seen on both sides. We know that Chechen fighters are fighting on both sides. Chechen government soldiers are supporting Russian forces in Ukraine, and some Chechen opposition groups, they are fighting in support of Ukrainian forces. You can see picture on screen. This picture shows a Georgian fighter. He is said to be fighting in support of Ukrainian forces. Yesterday, we saw pictures of Syrian fighters who are on their way, who have registered to fight in Ukraine. Syrian fighters on Russian side. And we do know that there is support for Russia in Serbia. And reportedly from Serbia, fighters are preparing to enter Ukraine through Russia. So on Russian side, Serbian fighters, Chechen fighters, and Syrian fighters. On Ukrainian side, some Chechen fighters, some Georgian fighters, and international battalion is in the making with thousands of international fighters who could arrive in Ukraine in coming days or weeks if Ukraine is not encircled. Thirdly, viewers, Zelensky. He is still there in Kiev. You can see a picture on your screen. He delivered a speech a few hours ago from presidential building, presidential administrative building. He was standing right in front of the building. He said, "I am here. I am not going anywhere." Zelensky is there in Kiev, though Kiev is under increasing pressure from Russia. Russians are moving in on Kiev from multiple directions, but so far Zelensky has not fled the capital. Lastly, viewers, a protest from Melitopol city in southern Ukraine is under Russian control. Russian forces are in Melitopol. Reportedly, Russian forces arrested Melitopol mayor. After that, Ukrainians took to the streets. You can see them protest against Russians, against the arrest of Melitopol mayor. Ukrainians are fighting. We know that they are fighting empty-handed. They are fighting whatever they have with it, they're fighting. They're trying to resist. That is why perhaps Russia is pulling its punches. If Russia uses its entire military force, it could lead to backfire. Russians would not be able to install any government in Ukraine. That is why Russia is trying to be patient, though it has intensified its operations, its missile attacks, rocket attacks, artillery firing, but still, I would say Russia is not deploying its entire military strength in Ukraine. Russia is a much larger military power in terms of manpower, in terms of equipment, but it is trying to go slow because it wants to install its favorite government in Kiev. Can Russia achieve its military objectives in Ukraine? That remains to be seen. Watch this video showing Ukrainians protesting in Melitopol city against the arrest of Melitopol mayor by Russian army. Thank you for watching.